I believed she was my sister for 17 years, until I overheard something that made me question everything I knew about my family. I still remember that night like it happened yesterday. They thought I was asleep, but I heard every word. It was a Thursday, late. Everyone should have been in bed, but I woke up to the sound of voices in the kitchen. At first, I figured it was just my dad watching TV again. He always falls asleep with the volume up. But this wasn't the TV. These were hushed voices, low, tense, like they didn't want anyone to hear them. I don't even know why I got out of bed. Curiosity, maybe, or maybe some part of me already knew something wasn't right. I padded down the hallway, the floorboards cold under my feet. There was a thin strip of light under the kitchen door. I stopped just before it and pressed my ear against the wood. Mom's voice came first, sharp but shaking. "We can't hide it forever, Mark. She has a right to know." Dad's voice was lower, heavier. "And what do you want me to say? That her whole life has been a lie?" I remember frowning, wondering who they were talking about. "I mean it," Mom said. "One day, she'll find out, and it'll destroy her." That was when something in me froze. She. They were talking about a she. Dad's next words were quieter, but I heard them. I heard them so clearly it felt like they were etched into my skull. "You don't understand. If she finds out that Emily isn't really her sister..." I swear my entire body went cold. My breath caught in my throat. "Emily isn't my sister? You have to understand. Emily has been my whole life. My older sister, my protector, my best friend. She's the one who stayed up with me when I had nightmares, who defended me from kids at school, who taught me how to ride a bike and made me believe I could do anything. And now, in one sentence, my dad just ripped the floor out from under me." I leaned closer to the door. I had no more. "Mom, she'll never forgive us. Not you, not me. And Emily, God, Emily doesn't even know the full truth." The full truth? Emily didn't know either? My head was spinning. Dad's voice came again. "We swore to keep it quiet. Remember? It wasn't our choice to raise her like this. We were protecting her." Mom snapped back. Protecting her? Or protecting ourselves? Then there was silence. The kind of silence that feels heavier than any shouting. I wanted to burst in, demand answers, but I couldn't. I was too scared of what they'd say. I backed away from the door and went to my room. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. My heart wouldn't slow down. My brain kept repeating those words over and over. Emily isn't my sister. Every memory we had, birthdays, vacations, late-night talks, they all suddenly felt different, off. I kept thinking, if she's not my sister, then who is she? And who am I? I didn't sleep that night. I just waited for morning. And when it came, I couldn't even look at Emily the same way. Because for the first time, I started noticing little things. The way her eyes were a completely different shade than mine. The fact that she'd always been taller, different build, different smile. I never cared before, but now it was all I could see. And the worst part? Something in me knew this was just the start. I had no idea that what
The morning
after I
that
overheard
night
my parents
was only
I
the
felt
smallest
wrong.
part of a
You know
much
that
bigger
feeling when you're
secret.
in the same room with
One that
people,
would change
but it's like there's
everything.
a glass wall between you. That was me at breakfast. Emily was sitting across from me, scrolling through her phone, complaining about the math homework she'd been given. Her hair was messy from just waking up. She had her usual oversized hoodie on, and she kept stealing bites from my toast like she always did. It should have felt normal, but it didn't. I couldn't stop staring at her. Every time she looked up and smiled at me, I wondered if she was smiling because she loved me or because she thought she loved me, because she didn't know the truth. And I hated myself for thinking like that. "Why are you looking at me like that?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. I shook my head quickly. "Nothing." She smirked. "You're weird." Then she went back to her phone. My parents came into the kitchen a few minutes later, acting completely normal, like they hadn't just destroyed my entire world a few hours earlier. My mom kissed Emily on the top of her head. My dad poured himself coffee. And all I could think was, how can you stand there and pretend? How can you look at us and not feel like liars? I didn't say anything. I didn't want them to know I'd heard. Not yet. But something in me needed proof. I couldn't just live with that sentence in my head without knowing more. That afternoon, while Emily was out with friends and my parents were in the backyard, I went into the attic. Nobody ever goes up there. It's dusty, cramped, and full of old boxes we haven't touched in years. But if there was anything about this truth they were hiding, I figured it would be here. I opened box after box. Old toys, Christmas decorations, school project from when Emily and I were kids. Then I found a box that didn't have a label. Inside, there were stacks of photo albums and a few folders. The photo albums looked normal: birthdays, vacations, baby pictures. But when I opened the first one, I noticed something strange. There were tons of baby pictures of Emily, but barely any of me. Like the first few pages were full of her, in the hospital, being held by my mom and dad, her first birthday. Then there was a gap, a big one. My baby pictures didn't start until I was maybe 2 years old. That didn't make sense. Why would there be no pictures of me as a newborn? I kept digging until I found one picture that didn't look like the others. It wasn't an album, just a loose photograph in an envelope. It was Emily holding a baby, me. But here's the thing, we weren't at home. We weren't even with my parents. Behind us, in the blurry background, there was a woman I didn't recognize. She had dark hair and this tired, almost sad smile. She was watching us, like she was afraid to blink. I stared at that picture for what felt like forever. Who was she? And why was she holding my hand in the photo, like she didn't want to let go? I slipped the photo into my hoodie pocket and kept searching. In the same box, at the very bottom, I found a manila folder with my name on it. Inside was my birth certificate. At first, it looked normal: my name, date of birth, place of birth. But then I saw it. Under her mother's name, it didn't say my mom's name. It said someone else's. The same name I'd never heard before in my life. I felt my throat tighten. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the paper. I put everything back quickly before anyone could find me, but I kept the photo. I needed that. I needed to know who the woman was and why her name was on my birth certificate instead of my mom's. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. My parents were in the living room watching TV. Emily was in her room laughing on FaceTime with her friends, and I was sitting on my bed, holding that picture, wondering if the woman in the background was actually my real mother. And if she was, why had nobody told me? I didn't know it yet, but finding that photo was the first step into something much bigger than I could imagine. Because the very next day, I would see that same woman again. But this time, she wouldn't be in a photo. The next day started like any other, but it didn't feel like any other. You know when something is hanging over you, but you can't tell anyone about it? That's how it felt walking around with the photo in my pocket. I had taken it everywhere since finding it. To school, to the store, even to bed. I kept touching it like I was afraid it would vanish if I let go. Emily was in a good mood that morning, teasing me for forgetting my homework. My parents were acting normal, smiling, drinking coffee. None of them had the slightest clue that I was looking at them differently now, like actors in a play. I just suddenly knew the ending too. But the ending hadn't even started yet. It happened after school. I was walking home alone because Emily stayed late for some club meeting. The air was cold, my backpack was heavy, and my mind kept replaying the same question. Who is she? I was about to cross the street when I saw her. She was standing across the road, near the bus stop. Dark hair pulled into a low bun, wearing a long gray coat. At first, she was just another stranger. But then she turned her head slightly, and I swear my chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. It was her, the woman from the photo. I froze in the middle of the sidewalk. She didn't see me at first. She was looking down at her phone. But something about the way she stood, it was familiar. Too familiar. Then she looked up, and our eyes met. It was like being punched in the gut. Her eyes widened, her lips parted, and for a split second, I thought she was going to cry. Before I could move, she stepped off the curb and started walking toward me. Every instinct in my body told me to run, but I didn't. I just stood there, frozen, as she came closer. When she was only a few feet away, she whispered, almost like she didn't trust her own voice. You've grown so much. I felt the ground tilt under me. My throat went dry. Do I know you? She smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was sad, almost broken. You don't remember me. They wouldn't have let you. They? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Before she could answer, a bus pulled up between us. The crowd of people getting on and off blocked my view, and when it pulled away, she was gone. I spun around, scanning the street, but she had vanished. I walked the rest of the way home in a daze, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. The second I got to my room, I pulled out the photo and stared at it again. Her face. That same tired, almost desperate expression. I had to know more. That night, after everyone went to bed, I did something I'd never done before. I went through my dad's desk. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't care. I needed answers. In the bottom drawer, hidden under a stack of old tax forms, I found a sealed envelope with my name on it. My hand shook as I tore it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper. At first, I thought it was just a letter, but it wasn't. It was a legal document. It said adoption. It said my parents' names. And it said hers, the woman from the photo, my real mother. There was a date, a year after I was born, which meant for the first year of my life, I was with her. And then, suddenly, I wasn't. Why? I sat there staring at the paper until my eyes blurred. Every sound in the house felt louder. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock in the hallway. My chest felt like it was caving in. I put everything back before anyone could notice, but I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I skipped school. I didn't tell anyone. I went back to the bus stop where I'd seen her, hoping she might show up again. Hours passed. Nothing. I was about to give up when I heard a voice behind me. You came. I turned around. There she was, standing just a few feet away, holding a small paper bag like she'd been carrying it for me all along. I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, but no words came out. She stepped closer and pressed the bag into my hands. I can't talk here, she said. They'll see us. They? Who's they? I asked, my voice shaking. She just looked at me, really looked at me, like she was memorizing my face. Then she said, meet me tomorrow. Same place. 3 o'clock. And don't tell anyone. Before I could respond, she walked away. I stood there with the paper bag, my hands sweating. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a baby bracelet, the kind they give you in the hospital when you're born. It had my name on it, but not my last name. I didn't sleep that night, not because I wasn't tired. I was exhausted, but because every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. That sad smile. Those words, they'll see us. I kept taking the baby bracelet out of the paper bag, running my fingers over the tiny plastic letters. My name was there, but instead of my current last name, it had another one. Her last name. It was proof. Proof that she was telling the truth. Proof that my life wasn't what I thought it was. By morning, I had made up my mind. I was going to meet her. I skipped school again, telling my parents I felt sick. Emily was suspicious. She kept asking if I was okay, offering to make me tea. I brushed her off, avoiding her eyes. I hated lying to her, but I couldn't tell her. Not yet. At 2:45, I was already at the bus stop. The cold wind bit through my jacket, and every time a car passed, my heart jumped. Then, exactly at 3 o'clock, I saw her. She walked toward me, the same gray coat, hair pulled back, but this time there was something different. She looked determined. Come with me, she said. No hello, no small talk. We walked 2 blocks in silence until we reached a small cafe. It was quiet, only a couple of people inside. She chose a table in the back, far from the windows. She didn't even touch the menu. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a worn, creased photo, the same one I'd found in the attic. You've seen this, haven't you? She asked. I nodded. My throat was too tight to speak. Her eyes softened. That was the last day I saw you before they took you away. I felt my stomach twist. Why? Why would they take me? She hesitated. Her fingers trembled slightly as she set the photo down. Because I was young, alone, and I made mistakes. Mistakes they used against me. What mistakes? I asked. She looked down. Your father, your real father, wasn't a good man. He hurt people, me, and when I tried to leave him, I had nothing. No money, no family willing to help. I couldn't give you the life you deserved. So, your parents, the ones who raised you, offered to help. Her voice cracked on the word help. They told me it would be temporary, she continued. That they'd take care of you until I could get back on my feet. But when I came to get you, she stopped, swallowing hard. They refused to give you back. My chest felt tight. You're saying they stole me? She shook her head quickly. Not legally. They filed for adoption. And because of the mistakes in my past, the court sided with them. I didn't have a chance. I stared at her. Then why didn't you try again? Why didn't you fight? Tears welled in her eyes. I did. For years. But every door was slammed in my face. And eventually, I realized the more I fought, the more they'd turn you against me. My hands were trembling under the table. Does Emily know? Her expression changed. Emily doesn't know everything. She knows you're adopted, but she doesn't know who I am. They told her it was all for your safety. I leaned back, my mind spinning. Safety from what? She reached into her bag again and pulled out another envelope. This is what they didn't want you to see. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to me. All unopened. I wrote to you every birthday. Every Christmas. I sent them to your house, but they never gave them to you. I flipped through them, my eyes burning. The handwriting was messy in some, careful in others. Some were stained with what looked like tears. Why are you telling me all this now? I asked quietly. She looked me dead in the eye. Because I don't have much time. My chest tightened. What do you mean? She hesitated, then whispered, they'll find out we've talked. And when they do, they'll do everything they can to keep us apart. Again, something in her voice told me she wasn't just being paranoid. She reached across the table, taking my hand. Please, just promise me you'll read the letters. All of them. You'll understand then. Before I could respond, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her face went pale. I have to go, she said, standing up quickly. Don't follow me. Not now. It's not safe. And then she was gone. I sat there in the cafe, the envelope of letters clutched to my chest, my mind a hurricane of questions. And somewhere deep down, I knew the next time I saw her, the truth would either bring us back together or tear everything apart. I didn't go home right away. I sat in that cafe for almost an hour after she left, just staring at the envelope of letters in front of me. I kept thinking about how many years of my life had been stolen, not just from me, but from her. When I finally left, the sun was already started to set. The air felt heavier somehow, like it knew what was coming. That night, I locked my bedroom door, turned off the lights, and opened the first letter. It was from my first birthday. She'd written about how she imagined me learning to walk soon, how she wished she could see me take my first steps. She wrote about buying me a little stuffed bear, one I didn't remember ever owning. The second letter was for my 5th birthday. She said she tried to send me a gift, but it was sent back. She wrote about sitting alone at a diner, pretending I was there, ordering pancakes for both of us. By the time I read the 10th letter, I couldn't see through the tears. But the one that stopped me cold was the last one. It wasn't dated. The paper was wrinkled and the ink smudged. If you're reading this, it means I've found a way to reach you. Please know, I never wanted to leave you. They told me lies, too. They said you'd be safer with them. But I see now, they just wanted to keep you for themselves. I don't know if I'll get the chance to explain everything, but if I don't, remember this. The truth about why they took you is much darker than you think. Ask about the night you were born. That's where it starts. The night I was born. I didn't sleep. Again, I just sat there, my mind running in circles. By morning, I made up my mind. I couldn't keep pretending. I was going to confront them, all of them. At breakfast, my parents were chatting about something mundane. Emily was scrolling through her phone. I dropped the envelope of letters right in the middle of the table. What's this? My dad asked, already looking uncomfortable. You tell me, I said. My voice was steady, but my hand was shaking. My mom opened the envelope, pulled out the letters, and I saw her face pale. Emily looked between us, confused. What's going on? I turned to her. Emily, I'm not your real sister. The room went silent. My dad's hand froze halfway to his coffee cup. My mom's lips tightened. Emily laughed nervously. What are you talking about? I pulled out the baby bracelet, placing it on the table. She found me. My real mother. She told me everything. My mom's eyes darted to my dad. You talked to her? Yes, I said. And she said you took me. That you promised to give me back, but didn't. That you lied to her. And to me. My whole life. My dad slammed his hand on the table. You don't understand. Then make me understand. I shouted. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. Tell me what happened the night I was born. Neither of them spoke. The only sound was the clock ticking on the wall. Finally, my mom sighed, leaning back in her chair. Fine. You want the truth? You weren't safe with her. She was 19, my dad added. No job. No home. And the man she was with, your biological father, was violent. You were born in a hospital under a fake name because they were hiding from him. And the night you were born, he showed up. I froze. He was drunk, angry. He tried to take you. She couldn't stop him. We could. We were there visiting. We were friends of a nurse who worked there. We stepped in, called security. And when it was over, she was terrified. She begged us to keep you for a while. My head was spinning. That's not what she told me. My mom's voice softened. Of course it's not. She's your mother. She wants you to believe she was the victim. And in a way she was. But she wasn't ready to protect you. We were. And when we saw how unstable she still was months later, we decided adoption was the only way to keep you safe. Emily's face was pale. You knew this my whole life? She asked them. They nodded. I looked down at the letters. Then why keep these from me? Why not let me decide for myself? My dad's voice cracked. Because we were afraid. Afraid you'd leave. Afraid you'd think we weren't your real family. The room was heavy with silence. I didn't say anything else. I just stood up, took the letters, and walked out. Later that day, I went back to the bus stop. She was there, waiting. I told her everything they'd said. She cried. She told me they were twisting the truth, that the danger had been real, yes, but she'd gotten away, gotten clean, gotten her life together. That she'd been ready to take me back, but they'd shut her out. And there I was, caught between two stories, both of them believable, both of them heartbreaking. I still don't know which one is true. Maybe I never will. But here's what I do know. Families aren't always made by blood. And sometimes, the truth isn't about picking sides. It's about finally being able to look at your own life and decide who you want to be in it.